Canada. What a contrast. Now in Canada, a string of fake Indians have been exposed and denounced, including a prize-winning author, Joseph Boyden, and singer Buffy Sainte-Marie, going all the way back, actually, to the original fake Indian, Grey Owl, a conservationist eventually exposed as an Englishman, but only exposed after his death. And now there's another. Thomas King is the author of The Inconvenient Indian and many other bestsellers with Indian themes, all the while claiming to be a Cherokee Indian himself. He taught Indigenous studies at university and won prizes meant for Aboriginal authors.
Look out, Bob shouts. There are Indians flying into the skyscrapers and falling on the sidewalk. Got a mohawk over here.
Oh, the elite loved him. King was made a Companion of the Order of Canada, given a National Aboriginal Achievement Award, but now has been confronted with his genealogical records and admitted that at age 82, he's not a Cherokee after all. He blames his mum for telling him his dad was, and he's returned his Aboriginal award. So, why do fake Aborigines in Canada even lose their jobs when they're exposed? Like Randy Boissonneau, a left-wing politician who had to resign as minister when he was exposed as a fake as well. So why do Canada's fake Indians lose their jobs, lose their prizes? But those apparently fake Aborigines in Australia keep them. And not just keep them, they're even protected from criticism. How can truth in Australia matter so little? And joining me is author and journalist Tony Thomas, who has covered Bruce Pascoe's career in detail and has now written about Canada's Bruce Pascoe as well, this Thomas King I mentioned, in Quadrant Online. Tony, great to see you. Can you explain to me why Canada's Bruce Pascoe has the Handbacken Award? He has a theatre cancelling one of his works after this revelation, but Australia's Bruce Pascoe, he gets defended.
Well, the thing was that the Cherokee nation in North Carolina did a big genealogy of Thomas King and had a Zoom meeting and confronted him with it. And he just collapsed. He apparently was completely surprised that any genealogy had been done and that it showed that he was conclusively that he didn't have any ancestors. So at that point, he collapsed, he grumbled, he wrote a long piece in the Globe and Mail in Canada saying how sorry he was and how it had all been a mistake, but his whole life had been a lie, and so on. Well, it's quite different with Pascoe because Pascoe continues to hang on to his Aboriginal identity, even though he's been unable to find that Aboriginal ancestor. But what he says is that maybe that ancestor got concealed, or maybe it was lost in child removals or something like that. And so instead he relies on advice from his old relatives. Oh yeah, so old granddad, he was definitely had a bit of Aboriginal in him, because even Pascoe says it's very remote. Well, some Aborigines accept that he's Aboriginal and others don't. And the elders, he's really gone Aboriginal because he's allowed himself to be initiated by the local UN tribe in a 3-day ceremony, he says, and maybe that helps him to become Aboriginal. And he performs all these rituals like dances to communicate with whales from the beach, and he talks to trees and animals and the sun and the moon and so on. So he firmly believes that he's Aboriginal. But he hasn't just theorised about being Aboriginal and the old rituals like Thomas King in Canada did. He's actually set up this farm, a demonstration farm at Gypsy Point, to grow native seeds, turn them into flour, and make the sort of bread that he says Aboriginals were pioneering about 50,000 years ago. And he's financed this farm through his charity called Black Duck Foods, which in 5 years has raised $2.6 million and spent it on running the farm. And of that, half's from the government, one way or another, and the other half is from private donations. Well, as you said, the Australian education system, the arts, the ABC, they've all out-promoted Bruce Pascoe as Yuin, Boonwurrung and Tasmanian. Now, if like in Canada, Bruce is suddenly convinced by some new evidence that he's not Aboriginal and agrees with that, it would just be a cultural earthquake in Australia.
Yeah, but I don't get why it's, you know, a fatal admission in Canada, but when you're confronted here, I mean, Pascoe has also said he's a Bunurong. There's a Bunurong organisation that says no, you're not. He said he's a Tasmanian Aboriginal. You got Michael Mansell and the Tasmanian Aboriginal Legal Centre saying no, you're not. It doesn't matter, and I can understand why he might think it's in his interest. I mean, there was a Canberra Times reviewer decades ago that said, oh, this particular novel of his would have been better had it been written by an Aborigine, and hey, presto, within a few years he's an Aboriginal. But why these organisations are so invested in saying he is as well when the evidence is out there?
Well, it just seems to be part of the left-wing culture. There's the religious impulse about repent because we whites have sinned. There's the green illusions about noble savages and community romantic life and harmony. And plus the Aboriginals who go in for it, whether by design or accident, wind up with a whole lot of privileges that basically aren't earned, but are very welcome, obviously. So you'd have to be a psychiatrist to work out why this has gone so deep into our culture.
Well, I don't get it either. I mean, there's so many I could talk about with you tonight. You know, where it's shown the genealogical records showing that they're not Aboriginal. 2 Labor politicians I've mentioned on this show, 2 prominent novelists as well, including Colin Johnson. The famous Aboriginal activist Bobby Sykes turned out to be part African. The Aboriginal activist who sued me in the federal court successfully turned out to be not Aboriginal either. One distant African ancestor who said it's incredible, but it's a miracle that there's just no repercussions. Plus a whole lot of academics. Tony Thomas, thank you so much for your time.